Hey, welcome back to the channel, everybody. I hope you're having a great week so far, and I hope you're doing well. So go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. This is a great way to help out the channel. So to the few of you that were asking how they can help out the channel a little bit more, please go over to my other channel, 80AfterDark here, subscribe, watch a couple of the videos, leave some comments, leave some likes, or even become a member. This is going to be the biggest way to help out this channel, as the more successful that channel gets, the more uploads I'm going to do here. But anyways, with all that out of the way, let's see what we got today, guys. We are live.
The difference between the temperature 200 years ago and the temperature now, and you're going to this 1.5 degrees and the Earth is going to burn up or whatever. That's less than between breakfast and lunch everywhere in the world. 1.5 degrees Celsius. It is so stupidly ridiculous to say that a 1.5 degrees Celsius increase in global atmospheric temperature is going to be a disaster. As a matter of fact, it will open up vast areas of farmland that were too cold before. In the Eocene thermal maximum, the temperature was at least 5 to 7 degrees Celsius warmer than it is now, maybe even more. And at the same time, CO2 was going in the exact opposite direction than the whole of the temperature was. And that you can see that in the graphs, that there is no clear relationship.
Yeah, it's all bullshit in my opinion.
This is perhaps at the most fundamental level the most important thing we need to know about the Federal Reserve System, which is that it is an appearance of the fourth kind, something which is not and yet appears to be. When I did my research on this topic, I came to the conclusion, which may startle you folks here, that the Federal Reserve System does not need to be audited. It needs to be abolished. And the reason I say that is because I'm sure that if they audited the Federal Reserve System, they would find out that it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. There's no secret there. There's no shenanigan going on behind the scenes. It's all out in the open. If we'll just study the Federal Reserve System on the basis of what we know already, if we'll read their literature, if we'll dig into the history, we find out that it's one of the greatest scams of all history. Out on the surface, it doesn't need an audit. An audit, I'm sure, would merely delay the process for a couple of years, give the American people the false impression that something is being done about this problem, and at the end of 2 years they'd say, well, the books are clean. I came to the conclusion that the Federal Reserve needed to be abolished for 7 reasons, actually, and I'd like to read them for you now. I've stated them in rather concise terms. Hopefully they'll have some shock value, so you can remember them. And here they are. First of all, it is incapable of accomplishing its stated objectives.
Amen.
2, it is a cartel operating against the public interest.
100%.
3, it is the supreme instrument of usury. 4, it generates our most unfair tax. 5, it encourages war. 6, it destabilizes the economy. And 7, it is an instrument of totalitarianism.
Yep. It's about as Federal Express. It's fucking garbage.
The thing that gives away the International Space Station hoax is the women. Now, women on zero-G planes with long hair, their hair flows naturally in the air. Women on the International Space Station, because this is all fraud, no matter what she does, no matter how she bounces around, you would expect her hair to flow in the air. And it does not happen. Their hair will never look like that because
I remember my parents waking me up and we went down and we watched you guys land on the moon.
No, you didn't.
What?
Because there wasn't any television. There wasn't anybody taking a picture. You watched animation. See, you associated what you saw with...
I have very hazy memories.
Yeah, I know.
Well, no, but what we saw was we all were gathered around the old curved top radio and listened.
Talking about you know, how many feet we were going to the left and right, and then I said, contact light, engine stop.
It was
and
exciting.
A few other things, and then Neil said, Houston, Tranquility Base, the Eagle has landed. Man, how about that?
That was very exciting.
Not a bad line.
Yeah, yeah.
wasn't any television. There wasn't anybody taking a picture. You watched animation.
Yeah, just more lies from NASA. That's all they give us.
Many ancient cultures shared similar beliefs in a sacred place in the north, often described as a harmonious paradise. The Norse would call it Agartha. For Hindus, it's referred to as Paradisia. The Greeks knew it as Hyperborea. The Celtics called it Avalon. Buddhists call it Shambhala. And in the Bible, it's referred to as the Garden of Eden. That's just a few of the names. In fact, this place has been dubbed the Land of 1,000 Names. At the center of this paradise is the Axis Mundi, also called the Cosmic Axis, World Axis, World Pillar, Center of the World, and World Tree. This is said to be the connection between heaven and earth. Here is the Norse depiction. We have Yggdrasil, which is the tree of life. This is Mount Meru, from Buddhist, Jain, and Hindu cosmology. It's a central world mountain that reaches high into the heavens, and resting above it is the North Star. In the Mayan cosmology, there is a central pyramid. Same theme with the Inca cosmology and the Navajo cosmology. So you get the idea, and of course this is fascinating on its own, but here's where it gets crazy. In the 1500s and 1600s, many maps were made that depicted 4 large islands in the Arctic region surrounding the North Pole. The most popular map with these Arctic landmasses comes from 1595 by Gerardus Mercator, where we can see a large black mountain called the Rupus Nigra, surrounded by a great whirlpool into which 4 powerful rivers flow. These rivers divide a massive landmass into 4 distinct islands. These islands were said to have been written about in great detail in a lost book from the 14th century called the Inventio Fortunata, which itself also references much older and similarly lost work. Suddenly, in the mid-1600s, all traces of the 4 Arctic lands, the central mountain, and the whirlpool had vanished, not to be seen on any map thereafter. Currently, we are told that there is no land at the North Pole, but instead, a floating ice sheet that expands and contracts from season to season. Here's a short clip from a documentary claiming to be going to the North Pole.
Arriving destination, 15 feet, 12, 10, 2. North Pole. Top of the world, guys. Top of the world. We'll get that in a minute, Jake.
How cool is that? So what do you think? Is the real North Pole being hidden from us? Are they hiding land at the center of the Earth? Is that why we are told about Santa Claus at an early age, and it's conveniently related to the North Pole so that when we inevitably find out that Santa Claus is total BS, we also dismiss the North Pole? Not that it doesn't exist, but, you know, we just kind of forget about it along with Santa Claus. Sure feels that way. And as usual, the truth seems to show up in plain sight in Hollywood movies. I just watched the new movie The Dark Tower, based on the Dark Tower book series by Stephen King, and sure enough, it was all about the Axis Mundi.
You draw with a good hand. just don't know what this is.
It's a map. My father showed me a map like this once. Inside the circle is your world and my world. Many others. No one knows how many. The Dark Tower stands at the center of all things. And it stood there from the beginning of time.
Dark Tower equals Rupus Nigra, or the Black Rock. And in the movie, a young boy goes to another dimension called Midworld, and the only reason he's able to get in is because, quote,
his shine is pure.
That's a prerequisite in a lot of the North Pole Paradise mythology we were discussing earlier. This magical kingdom will only reveal itself to believers pure in heart. What does this mean? It means that you must shed all your past traditional beliefs and open your mind and heart to the possibilities of the invisible worlds beyond our senses of reality. The Western world has been conditioned to see first, then believe. But in the search for Shambhala, you must believe first. Just like in the movie Doctor Strange.
You're talking to me about healing through belief. I reject it because I do not believe in fairy tales about chakras or energy or the power of belief. There is no such thing as spirit. We are made of matter and nothing more. You're just another tiny, momentary speck within an indifferent universe.
You think too little of yourself.
Well, it's interesting to think about that. I mean, in the comments, let me know where you guys stand on this.
First, there was sumo, the Japanese sport of heavyweight wrestling. Now, a much lighter and faster mechanical sumo has entered the ring.
A Japanese vehicle manufacturer unveiled on Tuesday the prototype of a new electric motorbike carrying a hybrid magnetic motor. The bike can run almost noiselessly up to 180 kilometers or 112 miles on one charge. Tokyo-based Axle Corporation says that the battery of the next-generation electric vehicle motorbike can be charged at home, in the same way as a cellular phone. It takes a little over 6 hours to fully charge the battery, and the vehicle's maximum speed is capable of reaching 150 kilometers per hour, or 93 miles per hour. The company says the futuristic motorbike enjoys high energy efficiency thanks to a state-of-the-art magnetic motor, which is a hybrid between an electromagnet and a permanent magnet. The new motor, called Sumo, short for Super Motor, is housed inside the bike's rear wheel. The manufacturer says the new motor is 7 times more cost-effective than gas-powered scooters. Daisuke Ito, a professional racer who test-rode the EVX7 prototype, said it could potentially replace machines we now see in motor races. I just feel that in the future we'll be seeing these kinds of electric motorbikes running all around town. And when that happens, conventional vehicles could disappear from motor racing too, and we'll be competing only in electric vehicles. The bike's manufacturer hopes to apply the electromagnetic technology to produce eco-friendly four-wheel vehicles as well. There will be a lot of advantages when motor vehicles go beyond existing hybrids and develop into purely electric vehicles. They'll become noiseless and do no harm to the environment. The company plans to start selling a mini scooter version of the magnetic-powered bike next year for about 250,000 yen, or $2,100 US.
So my question is, how much lithium are we going to need to build all these electric vehicles?
Stop wearing these smart watches. I've warned you about electromagnetic frequencies, radio frequencies, this close to your body. Well, a watch right on your body, putting that frequency in all day long, not a good idea. Oh my gosh, could it get worse? Notre Dame study showed they looked at 22 different watches. 15 out of the 22 had high dangerous levels of, guess what? Forever chemicals. Can you believe it? So if you got a natural rubber, totally different. But these aren't natural rubber because they're conducting into the body. But that's what they said, that the forever chemicals are being absorbed right into your bloodstream. So this is a high level exposure all day long into your wrist. Get rid of these things. EMF and now the forever chemical. And by the way, if you need a reminder, hormone disrupting this chemical, liver disrupting, kidney disrupting, endocrine disrupting, every possible bad thing in the big C. Yeah, it's causing that too. And it's being shown in studies and awarded millions of dollars for causing get rid of the stuff.
Yeah, not to mention you're just being used to mine Bitcoin for some rich fucker you don't
These
know.
Filipino researchers extinguish a fire using sound waves. A group of researchers from the Philippines is making headlines for creating a fire exterminator device that uses sound waves. The device was created by University of Mindanao engineering graduates Francis Bagol, Franco Bellera, and Chris John Pogoy, along with their advisor Stephen Paul Allavao. The project was designed to extinguish fires on electrical wiring or gadgets that would otherwise be dangerous to put out with water. It incorporates a sensor that automatically detects and stops fires from a maximum range of 2 meters, making it an ideal home safety device. Not only is the device chemical free, it's also safe for the human ears as it only produces around 80 decibels, which is approximately the equivalent of the sound produced by a vacuum cleaner. Winning second place at the 2022 National Invention Contest and exhibit of the Department of Science and Technology, the group has patented the project, which was registered on March 13th, 2023.
Fascinating. You know, that could be installed right in your home.
Here's how you can use different frequencies of music to change your brain and your life. So the membrane in our ear is actually organized by frequency, and different cells in the ear are activated depending on the frequency of sound that we hear. And when different cells are activated, different brain pathways can be activated. And activating different pathways with different frequencies of sound can change your state of mind, like how you feel and how you think. So here are a few of my favorite science-backed frequencies that I use most often. 432 Hz frequency music has been shown to improve quality of sleep and boost alpha waves in the brain, which can really help if you're feeling stressed or anxious. It can also help you to get into a flow state if you're working. Another absolutely fantastic frequency is 528 Hz. 528 Hz has been shown in a small study to reduce cortisol, so it can reduce stress, and it can also boost oxytocin, which is the hormone associated with love and connection. I also personally love binaural beats in the delta frequency range. Binaural beats are thought to entrain your brainwaves, so listening to binaural beats in the delta frequency range can boost delta waves in the brain. So it's amazing to listen to get good quality deep sleep because delta waves are high during deep sleep. Those are my top 3. Let me know if I should publish a whole list because there are also some for focus as well.
Yeah, apparently sleeping to binaural beats can even help with a lucid dream too.
Have the baby take 3.125 milligrams of iodine. This is cool. It increases the baby's IQ above the mother's IQ on average of 10 to 15 points. They're getting kids whose mothers do this that are menses. And they're just showing up out of nowhere in areas that these school systems, we're not talking at Cape Canaveral. We're not talking Oak Ridge. We're not talking at Huntsville, rocket scientists. We're talking country folk that are doing it. Their kids are turning out menses. And so it's huge.
Wow.
This is where it gets even more crazy. Does fluoride displace iodine in the body? Oh yes, it does. Does fluoride lower children's IQ? Oh yes, it does. And it's dose dependent. The more fluoride exposure, the lower the IQ. Keep in mind there are other things aside from tap water that contain fluoride. If I was serious about protecting my child's IQ, I would be removing fluoride with natural minerals, and I would be supplementing with iodine, not medical advice.
Yeah, that's definitely something to look into if you're not already familiar with
it. A child born in a hospital in the United States today, within hours of coming from source into this, into this body, the first thing that happens to them is pharmaceutical intervention without really asking, there's barely informed consent about this. That child's eyes are smeared with erythromycin ointment and they're given a hepatitis B vaccine in their first day of life. And the Hep B vaccine is for hepatitis B, which is a sexually transmitted disease and IV drug user disease, of course, which babies are not going to be exposed to. And yet every single baby in America is getting the intervention. So from literally the day we are born, we're on this treadmill.
So, why not test the pregnant mother for those?
They do.
Okay, so
they give it to the women who, even if they have tested negative,
which
they give
would
it
be
to
the
babies.
overwhelming majority.
Absolutely.
So I don't understand, why would you treat a child on his first day of life for illnesses for a fact he doesn't have, it isn't going to get?
So a child's born, let's just take the side. The child's born. Hep B is spread by 2 routes: sexually transmitted disease or intravenous needles. So my 1-day-old isn't going to be having sex or doing heroin right away. So what's the purpose of getting this on the schedule in the first day of life, the first hours of life? And if you push, and I welcome anyone to do this with their doctor, you get to two things. You get to the American patients are too stupid to remember, so we need to do it right away. That's literally like what they say. And then my doctor told me that the child at daycare could trip over a needle that has hepatitis B on it. That's literally what they get to. That a needle could be on the playground, that somebody just did heroin or something, threw the needle down, and it has hepatitis B blood on it. I asked the doctor, has there ever been in human history a case of hepatitis B being transferred that way? They said no. It's only through intravenous needles and sex. So you actually, to steelman this, and again, welcome anyone to respond, there is not actually a scenario, absent of intravenous needles or sex, that a person gets hepatitis B. There is not a reason for this to be given.
Especially if it's a breastfeeding woman. If you're breastfeeding, your child doesn't need a vaccine.
176 drugs that were considered safe and effective, but now are off the market because they found they were quite dangerous. Accutane, they took it off the market because they found it creates liver damage after 27 years. Cylert was on the market for 30 years. That was for ADHD or ADD. And then we have DES, diethylstilbestrol. This was used as a very powerful estrogen that was supposed to prevent miscarriages until they found it causes miscarriages 31 years later. And then you had thalidomide. I don't know how that got passed. That created all sorts of problems with babies coming out with flippers for arms and all sorts of issues. Hey, these things were backed by science. So the main question is, who is funding the study, which many times gives grants to the universities. And then you have industry, which then also funds the universities. And then you have a few nonprofits that do research right here. And then we allow industry to pay certain individuals who sit on boards and committees that regulate a lot of the guidelines in our healthcare. And of course, not to mention the medical journals, which depend on industry money for their advertising. But I think the worst of the worst is that industry is allowed to cherry pick their data and not have to publish the studies that don't align with what they want to. Unfortunately, what we're missing in science is this thing called ethics.
Oh, 100%. And not just science, government, every area of life. Ethics, out the fucking window.
I'll get to in some of the latest slides how this disease, which we surmised early on, started off in the male homosexual population in this country. Not that there was anything intrinsically different or wrong or what have you about homosexuality. It was very simple. It's straightforward epidemiology. You take an infectious agent and you introduce it into a population in which the spread among those individuals, if it's sexual contact spread, it's a perfect setup to spread. In any event, what we had was a concentration of cases, as you'll see here, in the New York metropolitan area, New York City and New Jersey, and in Los Angeles. You take an infectious agent and you introduce it into a population. You take an infectious agent and you introduce it into a population. You take an infectious agent and you introduce it into a population in which the spread among those individuals, if it's sexual contact spread, it's a perfect setup to spread.
Yeah, well, there you know. Everything you need to know about Fauci summed up in just a few seconds there. So, if anyone should be in prison, it should be that guy. A long list of people follow, but we will topic for another day. But anyways, that's all I got today, guys. I know that there's some interesting stuff today, and I want to know how you feel about it. So let's get in those comments and let's have a discussion. But I will see you again in the next one, guys. And until then, 80 Canadian, signing off.